Hey, I'm Shay Warner, and you are listening to Casual Cattle Conversations. If you are ready to explore different management practices and focus on improving your operation and the beef industry, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited you are listening. Hey, welcome to today's episode where we are diving into the essentials of building a successful direct-to-consumer meat business with none other than JT from Farm Rebel. JT brings a wealth of experience and practical insights for ranchers looking to grow their sales and reach more customers. We'll cover the simple yet powerful steps you can implement today, best practices for social media, and why email marketing is a must-have tool for long-term success. Plus, JT is going to reveal the biggest missed opportunities he sees when ranchers start selling directly to consumers. If you are ready to take your meat business to the next level, this episode is definitely for you. And even if you're not selling direct to consumer, there are still some great marketing strategies that all ranchers should be aware of. Now, I do want to make one request from you all. As you know, I am always trying to improve my podcast content and create content that is valuable to you, that you want to listen to. And I've been doing this for over 5 years and want to continue doing it for many more years to come. But the only way I can do that is to get feedback from you. So I am asking you to be as honest as possible. Go to my website in the Contact Us form, and that'll send me an email. But tell me what you like about the show, what you maybe would want to improve about the show, so that way I can make those changes. Do you think the intros are too long? Do they need to be longer? Do you want more in-depth content? Do you want conversations that are closer to 60 minutes? Or do you like the 30-minute conversations? Whatever it is, I don't know unless you tell me. So any constructive feedback, whether it's about what to keep or what to change, please go to my website, fill out that Contact Us form so I know you're listening and I can make those adjustments. Alrighty, folks. Today we are here with JT, who is with Farm Rebel. And JT, I want you to start by just talking a little bit about, first of all, who are you? And then also get into who is Farm Rebel?
Great. Well, I'm the creative director at Farm Rebel, responsible for obviously packaging our messaging, but really creating strategies for producers to sell their product direct to consumer. And so I spent a lot of my time working directly with producers, creating marketing promos and campaigns, and testing a lot of creative. And so what we do at Farm Rebel and what I do at Farm Rebel is we simply want to help meat producers make more money. And primarily the way we do that is through coaching them through a direct-to-consumer meat sales process.
So is your background in agriculture at all?
So the agricultural part of my background is my family owned a blueberry farm and we owned a restaurant. And through obviously growing up in a family business, you have to learn fun, cheap, but effective ways to market your product and to get customers in the door. But I actually spent like 15 years in ministry where I learned things like how to market and get people in the door. That's fun, it's cheap, and it's effective. And so I just feel like I've lived my entire life through a cycle of having to market wherever I'm at. The discipline that I've learned marketing in, though, and that I've taken private clients on and I've worked with other companies is through direct response copywriting. So that's kind of the discipline that I've learned to market through and have marketed, literally. So selling blueberries, getting people in a restaurant, growing a church from 0 to 2,000 people. And then, when your name gets out there, you end up having to work with or having the opportunity to work with anyone who needs to sell stuff. So it's been a wild ride. And I've been with Farm Rebel specifically, helping meat producers for 4 years now.
Wow.
I believe.
So you threw out a term there that I'm aware of because I'm a business owner who is also always working to improve my own marketing, and that term was copywriting. So just in case someone out there is listening and not fully sure on what you mean by copywriting, can you give a brief explanation on what that is and why that's an important thing for businesses?
Sure, like the nerdy part is copywriting. The root word is copy, meaning the word copia, the Latin word copia, which means an abundance of words. And so copywriting is simply the words you use to get an action, the words you use to get people to move. And so copywriting is your messaging. The way I the way I approach copywriting is to get a heck yes or a heck no out of somebody so that I know I'm being the most effective as a writer. But yeah, it's just the words you use to get an action out of somebody.
Well, awesome. Okay, so what are some of the biggest missed opportunities you are seeing farmers and ranchers make when they are selling their meat? And we're going to talk about the marketing space specifically because a lot of times cattle ranchers, who is this main audience you're talking to today, they are absolutely phenomenal at growing and raising that product. But, while we call ourselves Jacks and Jills of all trades, we might lack in some areas, and that might be marketing. So, what are some of those missed opportunities that you see from your perspective?
Yeah, the way I like to say it is if you're listening to this, odds are you're raising a world class product. But it's like if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, did it make a sound? So if you're raising the best product, but you're unable to sell the best product, you're really missing a huge opportunity, especially why we teach D2C, direct to consumer. So there are tons of missed opportunities, even just within that world. Several could be, again, a lot of people aren't even selling direct to consumer because it sounds hard. They've tried it before. They feel like they can't sell it at the price they need, or it's inconsistent. There's a feast or famine aspect to doing that, which is everything that I safeguard our clients against. But the first opportunity is you should be selling direct to consumer. Maybe you don't want that to be your entire model. Maybe you want to split your herd and do it that way, but you definitely should have that level of control over your business, that level of profitability and margin in your business, because make no mistake, the types of people who want to purchase direct from a farmer are not worried about getting it cheaper. They're worried about other things that go into the production of meat. So that's the opportunity, is to do it. And if you just want to dip your foot in the water a little bit and test it, great. But you should definitely be doing it. And so some of those reasons include higher margins. So you have control over the pricing because those who are wanting to purchase direct from a farmer or rancher are not price sensitive. There's a little bit of a price elasticity when it comes to how you can price. So at any given market, in any given industry, there's about 20% of people who prefer to pay for the premium, the luxury, the higher experience. And those are people you really want to go after because I said 20%, but that represents, millions and millions of consumers, right? Like you can't even reach them all because there's so many of them. So that is a huge opportunity there, is selling direct to consumer, but to a premium market, not those who are trying to haggle you on rail weight and trying to finagle who's going to cover processing and can I pay for a little bit now, a little bit, none of that. Skip those customers because they're going to be the wholesale customer that you don't want to have to deal with personally in your operation. But I would have a separate brand where I'm selling direct to consumer to the top 20% of consumers who are looking to purchase direct from a farm. So, like, first and foremost. And most of what I just said is not the strategy, it's the mindset that you actually have to adopt to be able to pull that off. Because like so many of us, we feel like, well, we don't want to raise the prices because we don't want to hurt the consumer. We don't want to get something that we didn't earn. But the fact of the matter is like, you're probably not your ideal customer. Your ideal customer are people probably in the city who are searching high and low on the internet for what it is you do, people that we probably can't even really relate to. whether that's just demographic wise, psychographic wise, none of the things that would attract them would be people we would hang out with on a day-to-day basis. But they will be your best and most loyal customers, and they will be happy to refer family and friends. And again, they'll be happy to pay that premium top tier price based on how you position what it is you do to them. And so, I mean, there's a lot there. Is there anything in there that you want to unpack a little
Well,
bit? Or
yeah, I think, we can unpack that a little bit. So, one thing for those of you who follow me on social media, especially, but it's come up in some podcast episodes too. And I talk about it a lot with my podcast coaching clients. And you just said it. And that's know your target audience is a lot of that. So in some of my recent social media posts, I mean, I say recent, by the time this comes out, they were probably a few months back. But, I talked about knowing your target audience for who are you raising your steers for on a much broader scale if you're selling large amounts. It doesn't matter if you are a small producer who's maybe only selling direct to consumer, or if you're a larger producer who is selling direct to a feedlot or through a sale barn. You need to know who your target audience is. So, JT, can you walk us through a little bit about how people can determine who their target audience is? Because I'd imagine even within that 20% of people willing to pay a premium product, there can be many different subdivisions within that.
yeah, the way we approach it is there are different buyer types who are looking for what it is farmers and ranchers do, who want to purchase, who already are kind of in the know and want to get into purchasing direct. And so I'll give us a few. And remember, we've identified the ones that want to spend the most money, who want the transparency, who want the relationship with their producer, and they are that top 20%. These are not people that are haggling on price. They're not price sensitive no matter what the economy is doing. And so keeping that in mind, we've identified 6 primary ones. I'll give us a few because this could be a very long episode if we wanted to dive into psychology around purchases. But some of the easy low-hanging fruit ones are one I like to call Brant the Griller. He's not purchasing primarily to feed his family. He's purchasing primarily as a hobby, right? Like he's got a Traeger, he's got a smoker. Throughout the day, he's on YouTube looking up different ways to smoke meats, different toys to buy to play with on the weekend. Like he plans his Saturday around football, college football, and smoking meats, right? So this is like, maybe he's like a World War II nut. He likes to just get into all things Americana. This guy is going to be a great customer, especially for those who are like grain finished and they have very, conventional products where it's like, this guy wants the best of the best of the best, and he's been disappointed at the grocery store. So now he's online looking for you because this is his hobby. But his wife supports his hobby because she gets to enjoy the results of it. It's not like taking up golf where he's gone, he's spending too much money, right? This is like his fun little hobby is feeding the family. So Brant the Griller. So that's one that I love that I think a lot of us here could really get into. By the way, the reason why we want to identify a target is so we can hit the target. We can't be all things to all people, so let's be the one thing to the one person. And so Brant's one. Another great one is kind of the family purchaser. I call her Patty the Planner. She's probably a stay-at-home mom, maybe even homeschools, and her entire life is making sure she's got the kids to all their sports activities, that there's dinner on the table, preferably healthier. They're not hitting up fast food to try to make all this work. Like she plans her days around the rhythms and the seasons that her family is in. And so she tends to have, again, a higher budget, or is at the top end of the budget because she has certain goals she's trying to hit for her family in terms of health, in terms of the convenience of being able to buy in bulk. And so Patty the Planner, it's figuring out, obviously families differ, but when you get tapped into that kind of buyer type, the word can spread quickly because she's also in mommy groups online. She's talking to her friends and family about it. there's a bit of like bragging about how well it's going, right? Oh, I just wanted to share this tip with you. Humble brag. And so Patty the Planner is a great one because, again, they're not worried about money either. They're worried more about health, convenience, and doing the right things for their family. And who is going to cut back on that when the economy does whatever it wants to do, right? Or whatever inflation increases. So these are tried and true. These are tested over thousands, hundreds of thousands of ad data that we've gone through what our private clients have seen when they've tried to target these types. So again, there's like 6 of these that we teach. There's a possible 7th if you want to dip your toe in the prepper category. Some of these people are, again, it's like I'm prepping for the end of the world. I'm going to spend all my money on this, but it's also fun. It's also a little bit of a hobby. They're going to get to eat the food they buy, and so they're going to spend a little bit more on it. So again, that's kind of a bonus one, but it's really getting clear on who you can best serve and realizing these aren't always who I am as a person or a consumer. So we need to figure out who these people are so we can really target in on where they're hanging out on the internet and get our message in front of them. So
So that was a great segue, and thank you for sharing 2 of those archetypes. So once people determine, who they want to sell to and who their product aligns with, which group they align with, how do they determine how to reach that archetype or that person?
we go hunting, we go looking for them. And what you're going to find is somebody out there already has the attention of these people. And when we can start finding where those people are, that's where we can really start seeing results. And there's a few ways we can do that. So obviously, just quick low hanging fruit here. Hanging out on Facebook groups, going to Facebook groups of these types of people. So another target customer would be a foodie type. How easy would it be to find Facebook groups that have restaurant reviews or Facebook groups for people who like smoking meat? Or if you're digging a little deep, what about other interests that they share so that it's not going to be you promoting against other competitors? So for instance, if there's a World War II, this is a common one because dudes my age are like really into World War II and we're into smoking meat. And so what about getting in like a World War II historical group where they're sharing information and things that they're learning and finding? You know pretty well these guys are already into what you got based on digging into this customer type and learning who they are. Get in a Facebook group and start commenting, start posting. Now, don't make every post about, hey, buy my stuff. You'll get kicked out of a group for doing that. But it's like, hey, does anybody have any ideas of their favorite seasoning for a ribeye? How do you like to cook it? Let's talk about it. So now you're just starting to give engagement, start giving value. And so that's an easy way. Get in a Facebook group, be part of a community, and do that at scale to build your audience. The next thing you can do is you can hop on Instagram. You can search hashtags. You can search accounts of people who may have the similar interests, who have the eyeballs and the attention of somebody who you've deemed as your ideal dream customer. And so maybe that's a health influencer. Maybe that's somebody who is like super jacked, goes to the gym, is into paleo or carnivore. And so figuring some of these things out of what these ideal customer types are into, go follow who has their attention. And there's a next level here, because while they have the attention, now you can leverage their audience. And one of the ways I like to teach to do is to partner with that influencer or that group owner to do a giveaway. To do a giveaway of some product, preferably that you have on hand, and have them promote it. So there's 2 reasons why this works really well. No, you don't have to pay them for this. There are plenty of influencers and accounts that have tens of thousands, not millions of people, but tens of thousands who are hyper engaged, who have a lot of like, know, and trust built in with their audience. And if they promote you, the audience is automatically going to listen, right? And so the way to do that is say, hey, I think we have some common interests here. I want to help serve your audience and your mission of what you're trying to do here. I have a farm. We raise product. We'd like to do a giveaway. Love your content. Is that something you think you'd want to do? And so usually a lot of times they say yes. Oftentimes it takes weeks or months to hear back because their DMs are probably full. But hit up 10 accounts a day and see who you can get to respond and put together a giveaway offer. And obviously for their audience to be entered into the giveaway, you need to get an email from them. You need to get a follow from them. And so now that's how you're building your audience, through giving value to somebody who already has the attention of your dream customer.
Hey folks, are you looking to achieve more with your ranch in 2025? Introducing Move the Ranch Forward, a goal-setting guide designed specifically for ranchers. This practical PDF helps you set meaningful goals, create actionable plans, and stay on track even when the unexpected happens, which we know is often in ranching. It includes templates, strategies, and prioritization cheat sheets to make sure you're always moving forward. Ready to make real progress on your ranch? Download Move the Ranch Forward today at casualcattleconversations.com. So there was a lot that we could unpack there, but in that last sentence you said giving value. And you also alluded to that when you talked about when you go into these Facebook groups, don't just be posting, hey, got a quarter of beef for sale. Hey, got these ribeyes for sale. It's you're showing up as a friend who's genuinely curious about who else is in the group and looking to network. You're showing up and providing that value, whether you're sharing your own grilling or seasoning tips or storage tips or whatever it may be. And yeah, you can promote your product, but you're showing up and offering that value in different ways.
Absolutely. It just makes it an easier yes. Because if you come in right away like a telemarketer, you're going to get hung up on, right? If you come in with a salesman energy, it's going to turn people off. Like, we see thousands of sales messages a day, whether we realize it or not, that we've become numb to it. And so if we give value first and we position that value properly, that's what gets the attention these days, not, hey, buy my stuff. So, yeah. And plus, we've learned to not trust salesmen. We trust farmers and ranchers, but if you're positioning yourself initially as a salesman, you've lost credibility. You've lost that ability. And imagine you have an audience who respects you, who is looking to you to kind of lead a group, lead a movement, lead an account, lead a social media platform. They're trusting you to filter out those kinds of people. And so you're really careful when it's your own audience, right? So it's important to give on the front end and then maybe see if we can turn that into a sale. But initially, we want to grow our audience so we have people to sell to. So there's a lot of nuance in there, obviously, but for sake of laying the vision, casting vision a little bit, that's how we start. That's how we get the ball rolling. By the way, I didn't tell you that you needed to run a bunch of ads, spend a bunch of money, build a bunch of websites, build a big, beautiful website. You could run this entire thing through your Instagram DM messages if you really wanted to. So not all
Absolutely.
of this is cost intensive.
Well, I will say that strategy that you just shared with going into Facebook groups, that's how I built up my podcast. I'd go in and I'd find different rancher groups, and then I'd do, okay, what about women in ag groups? And so I start with the big categories, then some of the subcategories, and started showing up, posting questions. Then, if they allowed me, I could post podcast interviews, and some didn't, and that's okay. I still found other ways to engage, but it is a very tried and proven strategy and cheap to incorporate.
Yeah, and
you can really do it, and it doesn't take much time a week either if you feel strapped on time.
Right, and the hard thing for those who run those groups or have the social media platform is it's hard to come up with content consistently. So when you have somebody stepping in and handing you an idea like that they're doing most of the work on, it's so much easier to say yes to because it's like, finally, I can say some other stuff here. Running out of things to talk about. So you're actually helping them in several ways. It's kind of building that rapport with their audience. It's serving an expert, serving a great thing to them. It's giving them a chance to get something, but it's also taking kind of the day to day off of them a little bit. So any reason to get them to say yes, obviously, those are incredible reasons to do that.
Okay. So you talked about social media. And in that, you said, okay, if you're doing a giveaway, you want something in exchange, which could look like an email. So is email marketing a must for direct to consumer businesses? Or do you think it's just, it depends on the brand archetype that they're reaching out to?
Email marketing has a very high ROI. So for every buck you put into email marketing, on average, you get $36 to $40 back, assuming you're following properly how to do it, right? Not just spamming, but actually creating emails that work. That's massive. No other media has that kind of ROI. Maybe a Super Bowl ad, maybe, but who's got the $10 million to spend on that? So yeah, the reason why is everybody's got an email. So I started talking about social media, right? But social media to drive to an email list is really the best way to do it. And that's because, even to have a social media account, you have to have an email address to sign up for a social media account. Like it's so weird to not have an email today. Some of us have multiple email accounts. And
Too
so,
many.
yeah, right. That was a confession on my part. And so, but the ROI is huge. And it helps you develop that relationship with that audience over time, develop that like, know, and trust factor that it takes to convert a stranger into a customer. Because not everybody's going to be ready to buy from you instantly. In fact, it takes asking through follow up 5 to 12 times before you even get engagement. That's just the reality of selling something on the internet these days. But the email becomes the contraption, the device for you to be able to do that follow up. And so, yeah, half of all American adults, this was a study done through a multi-billion-dollar company called HubSpot, where they run software for hundreds and thousands of companies in the US. They did a study and found that 50% of all adults make a purchase through email every month, which that's a staggering number to consider. And so if you could tap into a tiny fraction of that and build your audience, you're going to have sales coming in every month. And so, yeah, I'm bullish on email. It's not going anywhere. It's transformed and changed and ebbed and flowed through the last 30 years. But the first email was sent in like 1971 or something like that. So if you're not convinced on email by now, come on. So, but it's low hanging fruit. It's easy to do. It's fairly inexpensive. And this is like the tried and true way to convert strangers into buyers over time. And so, yeah, I'm huge on email. I'm huge on email marketing. Social media is fun, but it's really an entertainment platform in a lot of ways. A lot of people are just doom scrolling through social media. It's hard to get them to stop the scroll, and it's even harder to get them off that platform when they're scrolling. And so it's best to use that for in-platform and get them to take actions there. But the sales comes in. Like I said, 50% of every adult making a purchase through email every month. 85% of farm products are purchased through email. And so it's important that we just get this whole thing figured out. So yeah,
85%?
of farm to table products, 85%, which is huge. That means the average family farm can build their email list and reliably get income. By the way, we've learned through our private clients, not just through industry knowledge, but through people we've walked through a process. 2,500 email subscribers equals about 6 figures in sales a year. So you don't have to build up the biggest platform, the biggest list in the world. You just have to build the right one with your right customer, and you can produce serious results for your business.
I appreciate you saying that you don't have to have this huge, massive following, whether that's email or social media. And I'm saying that because that was a misconception I had starting out with my own business in the beginning. I felt like I had to be so big, and it actually drove me into some bad practices that built up a larger but unengaged following. And that is way worse than having a small following. I would even go back to having 500 of my most engaged accounts on social media and give up several thousand just because I know I am talking to the people who are engaging and following. It is so valuable to have more of an engaged audience, even if it's smaller, compared to a larger one where only a few people are clicking.
Yeah, that's really true in email because the email filters start punishing you if you have a large list that's unengaged. If you're sending to a whole list that's not responding, so say you have 20,000 on your list, if you're only getting a 5 to 10% open rate, those email service providers will start punishing you. You'll go in the tab more often. You'll go in the spam folder. People will never see your email. So you're better off with that smaller number of engaged people than you are with thousands of people who couldn't give a rip. So yeah, definitely.
What is, for email, what is industry average now for open rate and a click rate? If
You
you know
know,
off the top of your head.
yeah. Well, it varies because it kind of depends on like how good you are, and if you've been consistent, which is important. But we teach our clients like try to get to 25%. Like if you can get there, you're crushing. There's a lot of people they'll be stuck at 10% forever. But in our
Click or
industry,
open?
yeah, open rate. What did I say?
Okay.
Did I say click?
You didn't specify. I
All
just
right.
wanted to
Yeah, let me
specify for
start.
anyone who is listening because I
Yeah.
would love a 25% click rate.
Yeah, you could take over the world if you could do that. If your open rate is hovering in 20, 30, you're crushing. You're doing great. You're doing better than most. You could probably be paid to do email as a side income. Uh, but if you're doing 10 or less, you're hurting. Like you're probably struggling. And there's probably easy things you could tweak to fix that. But that paying attention to your open rate is super important. And then kind of what we were partially alluding to is your click through rate. That's measuring how often or at what rate people are opening and clicking through to your offer, the action you're trying to make them take. So let's say you're promoting an offer in the email. Let's say, you know, bulk beef shares, you're running the promo and you're kicking off deposits. That link that they click to go through to the next part to place that deposit, you want to measure that. You want to make sure that over time that's a healthy number. That's the hardest number to move, no matter how good you are. So, we want our clients above 2%, a lot are at 1, and you kind of have to reverse engineer it. If I need to make X number of dollars, I need that number to move, and if it's not moving, then I need to grow the list at the top end of the funnel. So, not to get super nerdy on all that, but pay attention to the health of your email list to make sure that the email service providers aren't punishing your emails through spam and through the promo tab by keeping an eye on your open rate. And then as you have calls to action, that click through rate, make sure it's pretty steady and practice different ways of getting people to click through on that. And a lot of times that is, did you send them the right message at the right time and give them a strong enough call to action to actually click? And so there's a lot there, but that's what we were alluding to.
So with all of this, people, most people cannot and should not implement everything all at once. I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but where should someone start if they really want to improve their direct to consumer business and recognize that marketing is where their gap is? What are some of those minimal viable actions they can begin with to help get some traction going there?
Most people have never considered who their dream customer is. None of this matters if you're gonna pray and spray when it comes to your marketing. One thing I like to teach is the marketing triangle, and this kind of helps us think through every part of the process when we're making decisions on what do we need to do next. And so the marketing triangle consists of 3 M's. Now, this is pretty broad. Shay, this is broad. This is not like super practical, but if we can start here, the next practical steps become clearer and easier. So, marketing triangle, 3 M's. First, we need to make sure we have the right market. Kind of, we were talking about the dream customer, the ideal customer earlier. We need to make sure we know who our customer is. What's the right market? Now, remember, we want to focus on one customer type and go all in. Other people will find you, the fringe will come in, but you can't speak to everybody all at once. You can't afford it. We're not McDonald's, we're not Nike, we can't spend billions of dollars on our messaging. It's cheaper, it's easier, it's more focused if we focus on one market. So M, know our customer. What's that market? The next is, do we have the right message for that market? Are we saying the right thing? Whether it's an informational piece of content to grow your audience, or it's a sale. We're trying to convert them into a sale. Are we giving them the right offer that they can't refuse? So have that messaging right. And the third is the media. Are we putting this in front of them? Are we getting them the message? Are we on the right platform to put this message in front of their eyeballs, essentially? So yes, you can do all sorts of things of where you're going to put up an ad or an offer, but is it the right media for who we're trying to get to? So yes, Facebook exists, but are we in a Facebook group where they're going to respond? Or Instagram, is it the right influencer? Or are we attracting the right people through the right messaging on that media? Media is everywhere. Okay, radio, TV, social's huge because it's low barrier to entry. Guesting on a podcast. There's so many places you can be. Are you in the right spot? So do we have the right market that we're trying to go after? Are we serving them the right message or offer? And are we putting it in the right place for the right media? All of those things have to be equally true or none of this works. So we'll just start there. Is there anything you
Well,
dig into on that?
I think that's all pretty self-explanatory because you touched on it earlier, kind of in some of those other questions that I asked and whatnot. So, but I really appreciate you going through your wealth of knowledge in this area. And I know for some of you listening, it might seem like this content is a little different compared to our usual management conversations, but it's important to remember that we as ranchers are running businesses, and I know most of you listeners know that and are working towards that, and that's awesome. But everything JT has shared today can be applied to businesses of any scale. That knowing your market, your message, and what was the third M?
Using the right media.
Using the right media. That can be applied no matter what size you are. So, JT, before we wrap up today, do you have any final thoughts you would like to share with those listeners out there?
Sure. Some of you are considering this D2C thing for the first time. We've listened to me just share so much stuff so quickly. It's like, what do I do though? Thanks for the mindset. How do I get a customer? So, gun to the head, if you wanted to, in your spare time, build your direct consumer brand, I would start with Instagram. Identify who your customer is, get on Instagram, start an Instagram account if you don't have one, because it's a visual account and people eat with their eyes first. That's something we learned in the restaurant business. My grandpa, he would say, like, most of what we're doing is making sure this looks good on the plate to keep people happy. If it looks good, they'll eat it. So, by the way, our food was great. It's not to say you can serve crappy food. But it starts with, do they have a good first impression? So, and it's a visual platform. Instagram is it. It's also the easiest place to network and to DM the influencers who have the attention. So I would start on Instagram. I would start posting product photos. I would start going live. I would just put some content on there to prove that you're a real person. That's all. Not an overall strategy. Just prove you're real. Show what you got. Then I would take a Google Doc. a Google Doc, free platform, and I would write out essentially a sales pitch for my product. Now, if you've never done this before, I'm going to give you a quick little framework. You're going to do four things. You're going to share what the product is, what it can do for your customer, why they should listen to you, and what you want them to do next. So here's what it is. We're selling bulk beef shares. We're selling subscriptions. By the way, two best business models if you're going to sell beef direct to consumer. Most profitable and easiest to deliver on. Start there. So here's what the thing is. Second, here's what it'll do for you. Your customer is not just buying meat. We're really stuck in a commodity mindset. We really need to really consider what it is we actually do and deliver, what our product does, how what we do serves the customer, serves the animal, which ultimately serves the customer. Kind of a big deal versus just going to a grocery store and just picking up a product. It's a different level of service here. So what are all those things? Is it convenient because it's in the freezer and you don't have to go to the grocery store and you save a bunch of time, effort, and energy? Is it you raise your product a certain way with certain farming practices that consumers are looking for health-wise? What are some of those things? Start bullet pointing what those are, what it does for the customer. And then third, why should they buy from you versus your competitors or any other option? Pitch yourself a little bit. How long have you been doing this? How many head do you raise? Where are you located? Why does that location matter to the soil? Why does that location matter to the weather and how you're whatever credibility you have, whether it's the technique, whether it's awards you've won, talk about yourself through the eyes of why would the customer care? That's the third. And the fourth, call to action. What do you want them to do next? How do they place an order? Can they call you? Do they text you? Can they email you? Do you have a Shopify checkout page? How do they actually make the purchase? And then ask them. Don't forget to ask them to make that purchase. So 4 steps. Here's what it is. Here's what it'll do for you. Here's why they should listen to you. And here's what you want them to do next. If you just start there and you pretend like you're just telling a stranger at the bar these things, have a conversation, write like you talk, you're going to have a pretty convincing piece of copy that will move the needle on a sale. Then take that Google Doc link and put it in your bio on your Instagram. And anytime you're on Instagram, whether you're captioning a picture, whether you're doing a quick video, whatever the case, tell people to click the link in your bio to get product, however you want to frame that. Those are 2 free things you can do that are like the bare minimum thing you can do to actually start converting strangers into customers. And then to start scaling that, to start growing that, reach out to those influencers and offer to do a giveaway with them. Partnership on a giveaway is so huge to growing your actual audience, keeping it small, keeping it tight, of the most engaged people who want to eventually do business with you. Those are the 3 things that I would do today if you wanted to start seeing direct consumer beef sales.
Awesome. All right. Where can people go to learn more about Farm Rebel?
The easiest thing to do is to check out farmrebel.com. What we present there is always changing and being tested, but no matter what we're doing at the time, it's always to deliver value on the front end of a relationship. So if you head over there right now, you're going to be given a free strategy call if you'd like to do that, to talk about your business and some of the things we talked about today and how you can implement them. And then maybe if you like what you hear and you want further help, we might invite you to join us as a private client. And if not, you'll walk away with a plan and a strategy that you can implement on your own.
Well, that is amazing. Thank you for taking the time to join me on the show today and share so much of your knowledge and go so in depth. I always really appreciate it, and know my audience does, when guests share action steps that are easy to implement like you did today. So folks, I will put that link to Farm Rebel in the show notes, as well as any other resources that were mentioned today. Take action, decide to move your business forward, and happy ranching, folks.